You shut the fuck up. Stop it. Yeah, what am I trying That's funny. What the fuck am I doing? What the fuck did I do? Oh, no, there you go. Hey, Dan. GTX Media is poking me violently. I could hear myself from the speakers upstairs. I sound really weird. I don't like that. Okay. Oh, there's Buddy. I'll give it 2 more minutes. I'll start talking here. Yeah, 2 minutes? I mean, what do you want from me? I can do a little song and dance number. I can do this. Oh, that's crazy. That's nuts. I'm the most entertaining person in the world. I know a great joke I like to keep retelling. Oh, fuck it. All right, 1 more minute. I'll just start talking about whatever. Well, not whatever. Just a couple of things we're working on. If you have any questions, put it in Slack in the office channel, just in case people don't have YouTube accounts. Okay. All right, so a lot of people frustrated with the board not representing them is kind of a I don't want to say mentality, but sentiment. And I think that a lot of that stems from operational deficiencies. And I think if we can both do things to address operational deficiencies as well as maybe get some fresh perspective on the board, I think that could help a lot. And the election committee, who is it? It's Dave, Blue Hat Dave, Dylan Witchard, Jason Spriggs, Ian O'Holland, and there's one more. I forget who it is. Anyway, these guys are putting together, like in record time. It's amazing to see it happen. Procedures for a publicly elected staff board seat, and if the thing, I don't anticipate problems with the election process. Spriggs he's a tech wizard. And Spriggs, Dilwich, Mark Mernon, and Will Henson had both come to, had all four of them had come to board meetings as guests. And we had Andrew. Thanks, Jason. Andrew Brockert, right. And so the board was running a bunch of cases of, like, have you considered this? Have you considered this? Have you considered this? Have you considered this? And I think a lot of good progress has come out of that. I think luck in the next couple months, a person will be elected by the staff, the board, per their bylaws, which we probably need to amend. We'll look at that nominee, elected person, and then. Most likely. I mean, there is few, if any, scenarios where the board would not vote the person in. So getting fresh faces on the board can definitely help. Not only introduce new viewpoints into board topics, into board discussions, but also help propagate information from the board out to everyone else. Because as it is right now, the board doesn't get a lot of emails. Like, if you ever have an email, you can always email bod@magfest.org at any time, but we never really get many questions. So absent those questions, people's view into the BOD is via the conduit of me and Dom, just because Paul, Tresh, and Eli aren't. They're not. They're more vision people and not hyperactive operationally. Hyperactive as in like really active, not ADHD. So getting a fresh face on the board, as well as every week bringing in guests. Not every week, but every board meeting. We're actually every week is a death march for us. Bringing guests into every board meeting so everyone can kind of talk openly, and then people can go and share what they talked about, what their experience was in the board meeting. And so that's stuff that's like is being worked on. I mean, like we're already bringing guests, and the election committee is going to have the election up very soon. So that's like in the immediate future stuff that we're doing for the board. In the midterm, 6 months ish. Let me actually switch back to Slack because that's where I told you to put questions. We've been talking about optimizations and efficiency and restructuring a bit. And I was talking to Dom some. Like this isn't final by any means, but this is kind of what we're thinking. We think maybe the organization has grown to the point where Dom had said that his job is to grow the organization to a place where it no longer needs him specifically, and he's trained his replacement. And it's possible that we've come to that point. So a running plan at this moment is for Dom to retire as executive director, and for me to step in his place. With that happening, that means that Dom would rejoin his position on the board of directors, and I've been thinking that, like me personally, being on the board of directors is it's a little bit redundant. I'm kind of the conservative voice there, so it does help to have me around to kind of pull people back. But at the same time, like the vision of the organization is important to me. But in the end, I think I trust the current board to continue to guide that vision. So it would probably make sense for me to just step down off the board. That way, I'm not having to wear two pairs of pants or two hats. One of both trying to operate the organization and one of trying to be a grand vision leader for it. And that's something I've struggled a lot with over a year plus more. It's a conundrum I'm in where I'm well aware about the appearance of impropriety of having board members also being paid employees. And despite any I don't want to say claim, despite any statement that that board members recuse themselves from votes regarding themselves, it still doesn't affect the appearance of impropriety. I get that. And despite that, I had been wanting to stay on. One, because I wasn't hugely a fan of me driving the organization while not having any agency over how I'm supposed to be driving the organization. But in the end, I know that the people on the board trust my judgment whether or not I'm officially part of the board. So that being said, if it's not specifically Nick Marinelli being the named person on the board, and I was kind of fighting for this idea of just kick me out entirely, it seems to be a good idea for the executive director, who the person who is in the executive director seat. It doesn't matter what the name is. It's just the person that's currently in that title. Even if they're not a official member of the board, it does make sense in a way. Well, I mean, not in a way. I think it does. It's. Oh, what I'm trying to say here. Well, I mean, it harkens back to what I said earlier. If the executive director is the person that's actually doing the operations and driving the organization, they should have some kind of agency in in what they're in what they're doing. So by that vein, no matter how many people we have on the board, the executive director should probably have a say in what's going on. But yeah, Jefferson Eng says fire Dom. That's kind of sort of the thought at the moment. Not fire, but Dom retires. I take his place as executive director. With Dom no longer being a paid employee, it's not as much of an issue. I don't think, and hopefully other people also think. I want to hear feedback on that is good. It's not anywhere near an issue having him on the board anymore because he's not an employee. He's just a guy in the organization. So that means with me stepping into the executive director role and not being on the board, but still having a vote, you've reduced the amount of paid people on the board by one, and with the addition of the public seat, you've increased the number of unpaid positions. So I mean that helps a great deal. So that's a big part of it. And additionally, I think that we need to hire a shit ton of people because even with the amount of people we had before, with Channy and Brent and our project manager, who's currently Blue Hat Dave, but we are accepting applications for right now. There's still so many gaps in what we're doing. We have job descriptions. We worked those out about a year ago when we first did performance reviews, and we signed a piece of paper after we all agreed, like, you're taking this. But regardless of what we all agreed to take, there's still holes in who's responsible for what. And even if we filled in those holes, it would still be too much work for some people. So what we want to do is to try to get more hands on board to provide I'm run out of synonyms here. Just direct help for the departments. So we've come up with this concept of the coach, and the coach is a person that not unlike a office employee. A coach exists to guide a department, to provide support for a department, to give hands-on help for the department when necessary, and maybe even fill in a gap. Coaches, the idea of a coach is to take on multiple departments under their wing, which we sort of kind of have right now. Although it's not specifically named, I'm kind of the de facto coach of merch, Mediatron, marketing, signage, international guest relations, I suppose, and others. Steph is more officially the programming division director. So we're trying to establish this relationship where the division coach keeps an eye on their departments to make sure they have everything they need. But there will always be more tasks than a person will be able to do. And you could hire 20 more people, but we can't quite do that and make sure no task is ever dropped. But that's silly. So the project manager, which is, by the way, has proven to be an incredibly powerful position. Checking back Slack real quick. The project manager, which has proven to be an incredibly powerful position, has been helping us since December to make sure that when you are when you're staring at a mountain of tasks, it's very easy to get lost in them and just work on whatever's in front of you, and fail to revisit the prioritization of the tasks, and get a sense of what your timelines are, and what's more important than what. So Dave has been working with Dom to make sure that all the tasks have been prioritized, and then well, I guess Dom, Dave, and the division director. I guess in this case, like me and Steph, like this is how it's been operating, and Channy and Brent. We'd work together to figure out what the priority of the task was, and then the project manager would be like, their sole job is to make sure that all the tasks are assigned, properly updated, accounted for, and everything, and it did worlds for productivity, especially leading right up to the event. And not only that, but it gives up a paper trail for any of the volunteers to be able to see, like, what the hell are you people doing over there? Well, other than that, you go in Jira and you look at the long stream of things we're doing. So this chart is actually possibly a little bit out of date with something that Dom and I I've been talking about for like the past week or so. It was like a how do I do this? So my original idea was that basically you would have division directors who their job would be, they basically have two jobs. One is office year-round stuff, and one is direct event management. So, for example, like if you took Steph's role, year-round stuff would be HR, office managing, accounting. But then she would also take on the division responsibilities. She'd basically be like in charge in a loose sense, the guide, the mentor, the coach of those departments. Because like we do now, we try to, as best we can, to provide autonomy and creative decisions to departments, but at the same time, giving a little nudge here and there to make sure things are on mission. Like, if a gaming department wants to give out like a huge prize for something, we say, all right, back that off a bit. I understand the value of huge prizes, but we feel it changes the vibe of tournaments. We want them to be a little bit more friendly, lower stakes, and there's a bit of a negotiation on that. But for the most part, what makes all these departments great is that they're driven by their department heads, and they have the creativity to do that. So the coach, again, is there to support, is there to guide, and if absolutely necessary, fill in. Though ideally, they are not personally diving in to department tasks, just because with the amount of departments to keep an eye on, it may be an inordinate amount of work. So the idea was originally to have basically a person assigned to a division, and that's it. Like you'd have a volunteer coordinator position whose division is the operations division. And this is kind of like, it was an I wouldn't say arbitrary, but like the best grouping I could come up with, but it's such a fucking huge job. I mean, all the red things were things I'm like, well, you can't possibly do everything in the black and in the red. And the marketing is a huge job, but if this is one person's year-round job, it's not outrageous. The problem with this model is that it is very Super Mag centric. Like the music coach can be responsible for maybe some satellite events like PAX Jam Space or Game Over concerts, but this structure as is only addresses Super Mag, and it doesn't take into account what the structure should be for labs, for BitGen, for MagStock, for MagWest. uh, uh, 757 chef. What are you, Matt? Right, Matt Green. You're asking, like Carrie does within the arcade. Can you clarify what you were referring to? Oh, like assisting. Yeah, like I guess Carrie as an arcade head, like she's not telling people what games to bring. She's not telling people like to make, like, you have to have this game fixed. She makes the resources available to people. She makes sure that the badges are provided, the hotels are provided, and then the arcade crew does work. So yeah, it's kind of like that, except a coach is responsible for multiple departments. So if there existed a gaming division coach, they would give direction to, like, a unified direction to all the gaming departments, to be like, this is what gaming at MAGFest should be. We can talk about it. We can negotiate and feel these coaches to be paid office or more well-defined volunteer positions. The way I see it, the coach is such a large role that it's someone that is accountable, that has to be on hand year-round. So they are a paid position, either full-time or part-time. In the original proposal, the idea was to give someone both a coach role and an office role, because we have lean times and we have fat times. So when event activity is low, the person would be able to do office tasks, and then it would gradually get closer. As it gradually gets closer to the event, it would require more attention from the coach. But again, like this, the structure, while great, if you're only talking Super Mag, it's like it says nothing for how you would interact with. But like, if you just took this as is and said that the gaming division coach, or let's say the music division coach, is just responsible for all music, it may mean that they just happen to be they're for MAGWest, for Mag Labs, for everything. They are the go-to music helper person, which may not be how the event leadership for each of those events wants. So depending on the event, it may or may there's a leadership team for most events, if not all events. For Magstock, it's Hachi and Charles Lohr, and it's Will Mernon. Is it Will or Greg? It's Will. I'm pretty sure it's Will. West right now, the event leadership is Darren and Sheva. Labs is, of course, the research team. BitGen is Chris Baines, JD, Tyler Merchant. So the idea is for the coach to be sort of a I don't want to say a servant of the event leadership's creative vision, but an executor, because event leadership may have a good idea of what they want to see, but they may not always have the time or the skill to execute it. So the idea is for the coach position to be available to the event leadership if they choose to use them. So we were talking about divisions, like there might be a music division, there might be a gaming division, a staff services division, or something like that. And different events are structured different ways. There are some events that their divisions may have different departments within the division, and there's some events that may have completely disjoint divisions. Like there's a division in one event that does not exist in the other event, and vice versa. So we've been talking about this model where a coach, rather being in charge of a global division, takes on divisions of individual events. It has their assignment. Now, for the most part, the likely way this will pan out is that someone will be the music coach for all events. That's naturally how I could see it panning out. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. We want to be able to provide the flexibility of the events structuring themselves however they want to structure themselves, and then having an easy hierarchical chain of command, not too deep hierarchically, because you definitely don't want the bureaucracy. Being able to get that support. So if you had like an example employee whose main role during most of the year was doing office stuff, like let's say for example they're doing all the taxes or the insurance, or let's say like PEX administration. Basically, this is Steph right here. So you could say, Steph, she's gonna kill me. I hope she's not listening. I'm not actually gonna assign her to everything music. I hope she doesn't hear me. Steph, you are in charge of the music division for SuperMag, the music division for MagStock, and the logistics division for BitGen. Now I say in charge, which again we want to the role of the coach is to advise, guide, and support. It's not necessarily to direct. That's up to the department heads to do. The coach, the only direction they do is correction for staying on mission. Well, what does the SuperMag division coach do? Well, the SuperMag division coach handles the music divisions within SuperMag, which I guess is Chip Space, Main Concerts, Jam Clinic, Jam Space, Rock Island, and Underground. Where are we? Also, make sure I'm not talking to myself here. 11 people. Oh wow. What are we talking about here? And then a person is in charge of a coach is the coach of multiple divisions across different events, and then events have different divisions within them. Like the stuff at SuperMag is not going to be the same as the stuff at MagStock. Like SuperMag is obviously anything related to any of the concert halls or jam space, gaming, electronic and non-electronic operations, stuff like maybe like logistics, layouts, tech ops, that kind of thing. Staff services is like staff ops, tea room, staff suite, and then communications is maybe like support B. For those who don't know support B, it's a contact form. Contact form responses for that particular event, social media upkeep for that particular event, promotion for that particular event. That kind of thing also exists in MagStock, but what MagStock has that SuperMag doesn't have is stuff like the slip and slide, the whatever scheduled stuff happens on the lake, on the space tip. You can't just say, hey employee, you're in charge of the activities division, organization wide, because activities doesn't exist anywhere except stock. But you can say you are in charge of this list of divisions. The ultimate goal is to have an org chart for each event. That way, anybody who is staffing any event can look at the org chart and instantly know who they should look up to if they need help. If they're a volunteer, they know who their department head is. If they're a department head, they know who their coach is. If they're a coach, they're an office member, so they talk to the other office members. Right now, we kind of have this odd model where, although the office has its de facto assigned departments, there are times when people just call out to the office and say, "Hey, office, I need help with something." Maybe it's like a layout thing, or maybe it's like a web IT thing. Like the other day, the MagStock DNS was fucked up. Right now, there's no specific person you talk to. It's just kind of like Nick, Dom, whoever gets to it first. And there certainly can be the case where one person assumes the other person's doing it. It doesn't, and then it doesn't happen, and that's shitty, and that should not happen. So it's I may be aiming to be a little bit too rigid by trying to make sure every single possible task and department is accounted for, but at the very least, since that may be impossible, at the very least, I want to minimize the instances of that happening. And I guess specifically for like the for the SSL thing, that would mean creating a tech division. Where did I have that? A technical division, which would be the tech ops department, all website infrastructure, or sorry, not website infrastructure, web, internet, IT, like year round stuff, like making sure that all of our Uber, not the Uber software, but the Uber server, the instance is running, all the DNS stuff is working. Right now, by default in what I have, I think that would fall to me. But I'm open to shifting that around. But all in all, the end goal is to make sure that no task is without a leader, someone responsible for it. And that way, if anybody ever needs help, they know exactly who they can go and talk to.
Making tea.
Steph is making tea. I've been talking a lot. Are there any questions so far, or suggestions, or anything that in general looks shitty about all of this?
Are you still talking to people?
Yeah. Isn't Dare now the head for web dev? He does that stuff. So right now, Dare is filling in to do some basic web maintenance. In my what I've been thinking is that website. Well, it depends on the kind of website you're talking about. Like, and it's different layers. Like, if you kind of imagine the computer
model. Webhook is already kind of made.
Well, like,
so he's just kind of fixing things behind whatever.
Well, okay, so you have like DNS stuff, and you have like renting of servers. You have certificates. Like, that's one level. Then you have another level, which is the design of the website and the implementation of that website design. And then you have a third level, which is the content for the website. Those are three radically different things that, in theory, they can or cannot be. They do have to, or there's no reason they have to be in the same division, or they could be in the same division. They're that right. But I do not know. MDev 1024. Oh, it's Jay. Okay. Yeah. Jay says the web dev is not the web maintenance. It's not the web maintenance. It's a very different role. And the marketing role can make sure that all the content is there, and they can even maybe hire a web designer to contract out a web designer to make sure that the web design looks good. But one is content, one is design, and then we can have someone else making sure that is there a plan in place to sit down with the categories of people you need, literally write out who is filling each spot right now, then look at where you want to be, using that to both help staffing and position layout. Okay, that's a good question. Right now, there's some of this that's kind of already in place. Like, for example, Steph is more or less already doing this. The project manager role is fairly well defined at this time, and Dave is doing it now, but we're still taking applications. Dom is kind of the de facto technical guy, and I'm not a fan of the executive director being as hands-on with the web stuff. I think because we don't have a clear, this clear technical division or web IT department stuff ends up falling on him. So if the executive director could still be the tech division coach, if there are people already responsible, if there are people designated to be responsible for everything else. The reason I asked is because it looks like in your slides that you're saying, hey, this person, you're doing these things. This is mostly this box. But it seems that a lot of people do more tasks. So people are actually in multiple boxes. So maybe looking at it from the other direction. Oh, I'm trying to parse that. From your slides, like you were saying, hey, this person, you're doing these things. This is mostly this box. Wait, so what are you saying, that people have their assigned tasks, but they end up being responsible for more than their assigned tasks? Is that what you're getting at? I'll have to wait for the stream delay to get that through. Oh. Wonder how long that takes. Like 10 seconds. Right. Yes. And I absolutely agree, which is why I'm trying to get coverage there. So we need to rework it a little bit. Right now, this was very, very specifically, this person is a music coach. This person is a gaming coach. This person is an operations coach. We can probably start out that way. And say this person has the Super Mag music division. This person has the Mag West music division, Mag Stock. What I know Dom is particularly worried about is if you make that like officially the job description and you advertise it that way, and you plan to not deviate from it, it can add extra rigidity to the position so that the person is unable to help other places. So the one possible option to move forward is the idea of having generic coaches. Like we would just open 3 coach positions, and we would hire coaches, and they would be the understanding that like we would start out by saying, okay, you're the music coach, you're the gaming coach, you're the operations coach. But we want to allow for a little shuffling around. And one of my biggest, I pushed back against that a little bit. because I thought it might might make the org chart too complicated to have like one person doing a whole bunch of things. But I think it would if you were looking at it like organization wide, like if you're looking at everything that person does, it could be complicated, yeah. But this is my opinion. You can feel free to disagree on me on this one. I think ultimately what people should care about is what's in the event they're helping with. In other words, the event org chart will look a lot less complicated because it'll say very, very simply, this person is the coach for this division. This person is the coach for this division, and you can just go talk to them. For Super, you'll have that. For Stock, you'll have that. For Labs, you'll have that. If you want to get into the nitty gritty and see all the divisions someone is responsible for, we can make that chart and show all of that shit. But ultimately, like I feel what information would be most relevant to you as a volunteer at an event is who your coach is, and not necessarily everything that your coach does. Yeah. And so if the perception from the ground is that the coaches are doing too many tasks, Coach Carter, the objective is to hire enough people and to apportion the tasks just so that they aren't overloaded. That A, they aren't overloaded, and B, you're maximizing coverage. There will always be something that's dropped. There's no way you can get everything all the time. But our goal is to mitigate that as much as possible, to make sure everything important gets done. Rob Carbala says it's reasonable to assume a gaming coach could have tech needs and a music coach could have gaming needs. I would say it's pretty standard for any job description to have other duties as needed clause, as long as it isn't abused. Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense. We need to make that clear in the job posting. And when possible, we would like to have. Oh God, I was going to say synergy. Oh fuck me, what's wrong with me? Becoming corporate. Just cooperation between multiple divisions, just so they can help each other out. Like lateral cooperation happens all the time. I mean, the entirety of tech ops is helping other people, even though, like, if you looked at an org chart, they'd be kind of on the same hierarchical level. The gaming, like the console department can sometimes bring consoles to panels and stuff. Like that kind of thing happens all the time, and I don't ever want to discourage departments. I don't ever want to discourage departments talking to each other. Every department should be able to talk to each other all the time if they ever want to help out with anything. What's important is that if a department is ever unsure what they should, if a department is ever unsure or needs help about what they should be doing, they know exactly who they can go talk to for the help. And that person they talk to will be readily available to help them. Oh, God. Sorry, a little gassy. Sorry. I'm streaming from a tablet. I don't just have like a. What the fuck? That's my wife. I should not leave at 6 o'clock today. That'd be nice. So are there any major questions or points of contention so far? Because I'm doing this now to get feedback from everyone to see if there's any huge holes in this. So if you got them, lay them on me. I will tell Jen hi. Thank you. While I'm waiting for feedback to roll in, I do want to say that I'm also trying to. I got this audiobook by Laszlo Bach, the Google People Operations Director, and I know Don and Paul talk up the Tribal Leadership book all the time. But what I really like about this book, Work Rules, is that it's so blisteringly quantitative in all of the advice it gives, whereas tribal leadership talks a lot about making sure people in the right mindset, to make sure that they can work together the best. This Google book tells us, or this Google book says, we crunched the numbers and we've been doing data collection for all 50,000 of our employees, and we can quantitatively say employees like it when you give them surveys to fill out. 757 Chef asks, but Nick, do we have a document that tells us who in the office is assigned to each department? That is the idea. Technically, you have that right now. Like if you went to the Magnomicon, which is pinned at the top of General, you can go through and you can go into the job descriptions for everyone, and you can see like the stuff that I'm assigned for. But because we don't have a great graphical way to do that right now, one, because the graphic we do have is old, and two, because just things are so damn fluid, and I would like to make that a little bit more viscous, just for the sake of ease of understanding by the departments. That department contact list is correct, at least in terms of the department heads. Although the supervisory overlord column is almost certainly out of date, and I think this, the supervisory overlord would probably be replaced with coach in this case. And why isn't this damn tab loading? Oh, there it is. That's what the column is called, right? Supervisory overlord. Oh, right. This is an i5 without dedicated video RAM or NVIDIA card. So I am streaming, so this computer is cranking hard right now, and not letting me do much else. But yeah, for the most part, this is correct. At the very least, for SuperMag. This does not necessarily hold for all the other events. So I want to put out a survey to all of the staff. Right now, I get a feel for what people think based on what they see in Slack, based on what I see in Slack, but I don't have a picture of the staff as a whole and quantitatively and qualitatively what they want. There's the idea that they're dissatisfied. Many staff are, and so I want to see if we can get some major data collection and data analytics to really get down to what people want to see, what people like, what people don't like, what's important to them, what's not important to them, what suggestions they think would help, what suggestions they think won't help. And if we can do some lost my train of thought for a second. If we can get a large collection of data on what everyone thinks, instead of kind of the general feel we're getting for Slack, that can give us hard action items to be able to address. And not only that, like if we ask questions that are things that are not necessarily usually brought up in Slack, just random stuff like features you'd like to see at MAGFest, ideas for operational improvements. Like these aren't questions that are asked too terribly often. People can always come out and say them at any time. Like at any time, anybody can email the office. Anybody can email the board. You can call me. I prefer if you text me or something first, just in case I'm in the middle of something. But you can always ask us anything. But like not everyone knows that. Not everyone has the time to go into that. Not everyone necessarily has. I don't want to say that they don't have the motivation to say it, but they don't have the impetus, I suppose. And putting something out like this will hopefully kind of give an outlet for that. And then I want to continue to do it. I want to do it somewhat regularly too. Probably not. I mean, there may be some degree of sending out some of the same quantitative gradings of like department heads and office staff, because that's probably something in general that that we should keep on top of. But there's other stuff. There's one thing. There's one section that's about like how important is the board of directors information to you. And that's the joie de vivre. No, that's wrong. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's the topic of the day. Clearly, it's a huge issue. But I hope to solve or mitigate this to a manageable level in the near future, and then we can move on to the other things. Because there will always be something. We will keep trotting forward as best we can. Anybody got anything? Any questions they think would be good for the survey? Any questions about coaches? Any questions about Dom retiring and me taking his place? One note is that so Dom we presumably have Dom winding down over the next 6 months, and then over the next 6 months, his two huge things are focusing on MAGFest as much as he can, and also being a main leader for our software engineer. And then after MAGFest, if things go according to plan, and this is the proposed plan. We haven't voted on this. Is it something you vote on? Maybe. I guess the board has to vote the executive director in. And this is the first time that's any more people than the guests of the BOD and the people that they have talked to have heard of this. And if history has taught me anything, you don't want to drop organizational structures on you without first consulting you for feedback. So yeah. Do I have Oh yeah, I gotta get back to him. Will I grow Dom's beard in his place? I am incapable of growing hair. Like right here. Like what I shave, that's the beard I have. That's as high as it goes without having a hole in there. So I cannot have as thick a beard as Dom does. Not that I would want to. Wonder if there's a way of avoiding creating silos in the office structure. Do you mean to say if people are working in their divisions, they will focus on their divisions and they will not get a lot of interaction with the other office members? If that's the case, I think that I won't say that can't happen, but I think naturally people will be working together because I can see why. Like the gaming and the operations division have to talk to each other because they have to talk to each other about logistics. We'll all be talking about what are the top priorities in terms of tasks to do at the moment. And if it turns out that the amount of tasks with high priority, all the tasks with high priority are higher priority than a certain coach's division, they'll probably need to lend a hand here and there. That's kind of what I think. But if you have like if you can list out some scenarios where you think siloing may occur and the potential fallout of that would be helpful, just so it's something we can account for. That's kind of really about all I had. Although here's one very, very important thing. I would like more than anything else, I would love to get all these positions filled right away. But I think the past has taught us, and just a lot of reading, trying to train on management, business administration, that kind of thing. You have to hire right. You can't hire fast. So some of these positions to hire may take longer than we'd like to hire. But based on like what we've learned so far, we have to make sure that we hire the perfect person for the job, and not just the person that's quite good enough. And so we're going to be looking at a lot of applications, doing a lot of interviews, and it may take several months to fill a position after it's posted. And I want to make sure that people understand that, because we're talking about this reorg stuff, and we're talking about a lot of positions opening, and with no other information than that, one may assume that we're hiring them all right away immediately. But we have to be very careful with this. I don't know what to say other than it's kind of like I just don't want to be like hip and say, oh, I read a book. It's in the book, but it's based on what I've been hearing about, reading about, it's a like it costs a lot less money to spend more on the HR and hiring process than it does to spend less on the HR and hiring process and spend more on training. The amount of the latter ends up being much more than the former, and results in an employee that's not quite as good or as fit as the former. So we want to make sure that we find a badass for all of these positions going in, and not necessarily whoever will do best at the time for them. And we're looking at like 4 or 5 people here, maybe more. But I have been very conscious about the budget in all of this, because obviously we have finite resources, and we also don't want to dip into savings. So budgets for SuperMag next year are going to be just about the same as you had this year, minus additional infrastructure requests that you had submitted. And we're actually very, very close to having that budget done. Where is that? It's fucking taking forever to load. I will fully own up to not having a structured budget available for everyone to look at last year, and I know Rob Scullin is right to crucify me for that one on the regular, which is why the budget for this year is almost done. At least this is the organization-wide budget, and the SuperMag budget. Individual event budgets are kind of a different beast, but there's more leniency on them, and I know that like mag stock really can't change much more than it is now. Like if they just reuse the same budget this year, as they did last year, like it would, because they probably have around the same amount of attendance, around the same amount of content. But ultimately, we're trying to kind of have the same thing with SuperMag this year, as we kind of get into maintenance mode and play around with badge prices, because we are hitting the upper limit of income for SuperMag, though there are things we can do to make sure I'm not talking to myself here. Is this actually working? Okay, yeah, all right. Sorry, just making sure I'm not talking to myself. There are things we can do to help increase income, so we can have a little bit more breathing room. We can add more. We can make hotel rooms cost a little bit more, which will give us a little bit more commission. We can make badge prices a little bit higher. Oh man, and that's a controversial topic. Because I know one thing I was trying to MAGFest on is having a better bang for your buck than any other convention. Because we're not a convention. We could probably make sure that we have more supporter tiers, more merch involvement. There's some wiggle room yet, and we also have room for a couple thousand more people as well. Because our rule of thumb is we're saying 19,000 sold badges, I think is what we're saying. And I think we were about like 17.5, 18, somewhere in that area this year. So we still have some breathing room, but we will have to be a little bit conservative, just for the sake of if we end up spending like $450,000 on labor, we have to make sure that we can make up for that in other ways. Coming up periodically. I'm gonna stop changing windows so much, because that's probably going to I have a feeling just if I'm cranking the computer by opening too many windows, because no video card on an i5 is not fantastic. The computer is pretty good for everything else. This is kind of like a fireside chat. I should have like a DVD of the fireplace going behind me. Maybe like Sunny in my lap. Ah, Sunny, what a good kitty. Tim, that's a good point. Dom actually mentioned like setting up like it may be worthwhile setting up like a mini, I don't want to call it a studio, but a reasonable setup so that we can actually have decent fireside chats and not me in a phone inside of a lamp speaking to everyone. I think most would agree that is a suboptimal path of events. But hey, if somebody wants to propose a reasonably priced streaming setup, including rig, camera, microphone, and light if necessary, I would be interested in seeing that. Oh. Okay. I think that about wraps it up. Open up for any last questions. If anybody else has anything? Looks like it's about it. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want me to send the slides over and the drawings over, just email me. Keep in mind they are very work in progress and have some outdated stuff and stuff that's obviously work in progress, not complete. So if I give them to you, you have to keep in mind everything that I have already told you if you show them to someone else, which is quite a lot, but yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. I will see y'all soon. Email me if you have any questions. Or Slack me. Either way.